to Inspire to Change with your host, Shirley Walthour, and our co host is
Aloma Ingram. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. The purpose of our show is to inspire, motivate, encourage, and promote excellence for change in our friends, families, community, and our children.
That's right.
Previously, our topics have dealt with communication. We've talked about intimate relationships, communications with interpersonal relationships, and the one other we did family relationships and communication. I'm sorry,
That's right.
Family communication. And then we've also today brought to your attention, we'd like to bring to your attention, we want to talk about the individual today. And a form of communication many of us perhaps do not think about often, and that is that of self-talk, or in conjunction with self-awareness. We call this show today "The Man in the Mirror." Self-talk is the act or practice of talking to oneself, either aloud or silently and mentally. One of the best forms of self-talk, of course, is positive self-talk.
Trying to motivate yourself out of a situation.
Exactly. Everyone,
Now and again,
needs some self-talk.
That's right.
Exactly. Aloma and myself being early childhood, what I'm about to say, we know very well about this. That is that self-talk begins when?
The early toddlers.
And with toddlers, and we've seen them so many times. They may be in the dramatic play area, and particularly there, and they're instructing themselves, aren't they?
Or you're talking to a doll sometimes.
Yeah, or talking to a dog, and a doll, a toy, and so toddlers use self-talk as kind of an instruction manual. I'm getting ready to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to you put the clothes on the doll. I'm going to go to church. So or whatever they.
So basically telling themselves what they're going to do.
Right.
Yes. It's a motivational piece, actually.
Yes, it is.
I will do this. I'm going to do that. Yes, it's a
exactly.
Motivational piece.
Yes, and it's somewhat of a generated, self-generated road map to mastery. This is how they began to master their environment and then set themselves.
Yes, setting themselves up that I am going to do this and mastering it.
Right, exactly. It's a control factor as far as they're concerned. So it begins in toddlerhood, and but it continues on our entire life.
Yeah.
And so
but sometimes we don't tap into it.
No.
Most times we don't tap into
it. We're not alert to it. And that's something that we want to bring to the forefront today.
That's
right. That we need to tap into that a little bit more. There are some benefits to self-taught, and theorists and psychologists and doctors of all sorts have come to realize that the importance of self-talk. And that is that, first of all, it can actually boost your confidence and self-esteem.
That's right. And it helps you to master some difficult things as well.
Exactly.
Yes.
I thought about an example because one psychologist says that if we would step back a minute when we are doing self-talk, and instead of saying, let's just say I'm walking through the house and I stumble over something and I'm almost trip, and instead of saying, I'm so clumsy. I'm always tripping. Instead of saying that, this one psychologist says that if we would just step back and say, you know what, Shirley, you need to watch yourself a little closer. Bring it out of the first back into watch what you're stepping. Talk to yourself, in other words. Instruct yourself like children do to be more careful.
Another positive way to is I almost fell.
Yes.
I caught myself.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
And my balance is good. I help myself up. Yes, in a positive way.
Excellent. Instead of saying, I'm so clumsy,
because
I'm an
the more you
idiot.
speak that I'm clumsy, clumsiness is going to be manifest.
Right.
It's going to manifest into everything that you do.
Exactly.
So you don't want to talk that I am clumsy, but I am skillful.
Right.
I almost fell, but I held myself up.
Right.
Or next time, I will be more cautious.
Right. And we don't want to own, what we're saying is the talk that goes on in your head you don't want to own that talk because your mind will sometimes tell you, and they may say your mind may say it in the negative form.
You don't want to own the talk if it's negative in your head.
Right,
If
absolutely.
it's a positive talk in
Absolutely, I agree with that.
Own the positive talk. Yes.
I agree with that totally. It's also been found that positive self-talk can even avert depression in some cases.
Yes, it definitely can.
Right,
Yes.
right. And if you've ever been through a difficult situation, which most of us have at some point in time,
Look in that mirror.
Look in that mirror. I know I
Say, Aloma, you're not going to fall into this depression today.
Exactly.
You're gonna step out of this today,
Right.
And you're gonna succeed.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. I'm gonna fight for
I'm gonna
myself.
fight for myself,
Right.
And by God's will, it will happen. I will make it happen.
That's right.
Yes.
So you can avert even depression from using positive self-talk. And along the way, by doing so, it releases stress. It eliminates stress that you might have. That you are owning by saying, oh my God, I'm going through this. Oh my goodness, I don't know how I'm going to make it through this. And will I make it? And all of this kind of, you're adding, you're piling on stress on top of stress.
Because the negative thought is going to sink you deeper into depression.
Right, right.
The negative speech, the negative thoughts, the negative actions are going to sink you deeper into depression. And nobody is worth that.
Right.
You are worth living, and you're worth being happy.
Right, exactly.
Nobody around you is worth putting you in
Right.
depression and putting you under.
And who's responsible for your happiness first? Yeah. Who's responsible, audience? Our audience, who's responsible for your happiness?
Don't depend on someone to make you happy.
Right.
You have to make yourself happy.
Right.
You understand? And if you can't make yourself happy, then you cannot make somebody else happy.
Exactly.
So in order to be making others happy, first you have to master making yourself happy.
Right. And one way to do that is through positive self-talk.
self-talk.
You've got to tell yourself that you are a winner. We're not saying
I'm beautiful.
This is not just
You know,
something
people tell you too that you're so ugly, you're so black, you're so this, I'm black, I'm beautiful, and I
Right.
love me.
Right.
Yes, and
You
that
must
will radiate through your attitude and through your personality and
Yes.
through who you are.
Look
You know?
in the mirror and tell yourself, the man in the mirror,
Yeah,
look at
yes.
the person in the mirror. And you tell yourself, till you convince yourself even,
Yes.
that look, I got it going on.
And this too may pass.
And
It
this is
shall
going to pass. And
Yes.
I can master this.
Yes.
This is possible. So we are saying to you, instead of just saying, I am failing, I'm a failure, I'm this or that. Use your name. Say, no, Shirley,
You're not.
I had a failure. There was something I did that I failed in, but that doesn't make me a failure.
But your failures are lessons.
Right. Okay.
Use
let's
your
talk about
failures
that.
as lessons.
Right. Let's talk
Let
about
it be
that
the
for a moment.
catalyst to make you rise.
Right. Well, how would one transfer these lessons, if we will, these failures, these actions? Because I want to clearly say that what you do and who you are is totally two different things.
You know, Shirley, you're going to go through the traumas. You're going to feel the pain of the traumas. They're going to have their effects on you. You're going to feel depressed. You're going to feel suicidal. You're going to think the earth and the world is going to end with you.
Right.
And everything that I'm saying here is only going to damage the person who's feeling all of that.
Right.
It's not going to damage the people who are putting the pain and the trauma and inflicting all these things on you.
Right.
It's not going to affect them.
Right.
It's going to affect you if you allow it.
Right.
And so are those people or elements better than who you are?
No,
You
absolutely
have to
not.
rise above the things that people try to do to hurt you.
Right, exactly.
Yes. And then it makes you stronger.
And don't own what someone else says. If they're not saying something good about you, if they're not saying anything positive, if they're not saying anything to encourage you, I've always said to my children, you know what? If those who like me, that's wonderful. And those who don't like me, they don't count. So that's how I roll, okay?
Yeah.
But I'm saying you have to convince yourself that, look, that if their people are not pouring positivity into you, then that doesn't matter. But when you get alone, you've got to then convince yourself. So scientists now find that the right words can actually even free you from your fears and make you wise. It's almost as if someone else is talking to you.
Shirley, I've been going through my stuff as well, like we all do, go through our little traumas. But what I have learned through all of the traumas that I've gone through in my life is that when you allow the person who's trying to inflict, the tentacles can only attach to you and drain you and suck you and put all the poison in you if you remain negative.
Right.
The moment you start speaking positiveness in yourself, it's like it becomes like
it gives you power.
It gives you power,
energy.
and those tentacles will naturally release themselves.
It will.
The positive words become like a repellent.
Yes, I like that word.
Yeah, it becomes a repellent from the negative to attack you.
Right.
So you have to recognize that, you know what, staying happy, staying positive, trusting that there is a superior spirit, God, that you can, talk to if you feel lonely.
Right.
Go into prayer.
And that is going to be worked out in the end.
It's going to work out in the end.
So how people conduct their inner monologues has an enormous effect. How you conduct, I'm saying, your inner monologue has an enormous effect on your success in life. And this is something.
And we got to speak prosperity in our spirits.
Right.
Speak positive, what you want, what you need into you.
Right.
I want to be successful. I don't want to be very successful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Say what you want. Don't say what you don't want.
Yeah.
I've taught many child care courses and to child care employees or teachers. And when we're talking about positive guidance, I always say that, when you speak to children, because that's what we're all about. When you speak to children, tell them what you want. Don't tell them what you don't want.
Shirley, I remember when I was going to kindergarten, and I don't forget that, the Catholic school in Jamaica. And sister said to me, I should do this. And I said, sister, I can't. She said, Aloma, there's no such a thing as I can't. You can. And those words never left me.
Right.
She said, there's no such thing as I can't.
Right.
And I look at her like, okay.
Yeah. So
I was remembering.
Speak what you want to have accomplished in a person's life, in a child's life, in your life. If you don't speak what you don't want, speak what you want. So on that same vein, we want to talk quickly about yes, we've said that about that tongue. Deadly evil.
Deadly, yes.
It can be a deadly evil if you allow it. So we want to talk about self-awareness real quickly. That self-awareness is about understanding ourselves and knowing what pushes our buttons and why our buttons are pushed.
Yes.
And we have to take time again to reflect, don't we? We have to do some inner searching to be aware of what turns us on, what turns us off. And when something turns us off, we have to even be aware of how that makes us feel, because stress you feel inside your body. You'll
feel the whipping. You'll feel everything. You'll feel every ounce of what you're going through.
Right, but you have to be aware of that. You have to start learning that. You know what? When I start feeling angry, there's certain chemistries going on in my body. There's certain feelings that I get. No one just gets to the blow up.
No.
Okay,
There's a transitional point. You can actually feel you turning into that.
Right.
I'm about to blow.
Yeah.
And so you when you master that and you can control it, then that's good.
Exactly.
It's not easy to do.
It's not, but
for me it works when I walk away.
Right. But sometimes you have to take the time to reflect. I was mentioning to Aloma, I remember one time I was coming down the street near my mother's home, and what was once her home, I will say. I was feeling fine before I got to that point, and then when I got to that point where I normally turn off to her home, I started feeling bad for a moment, and I kept driving, of course, and I got to the end of the street and I realized, Shirley, I feel bad. Why am I feeling bad? What happened? I was doing great. I was happy. And then I learned to roll the tape back and start to think about, what were you thinking about? That thought thing. What were you thinking about?
If Mama was alive, I would have turned the car off to this point.
That's what I thought about. Exactly.
Yes.
And so that changed my whole mood. And but it didn't ruin my whole day, because I was able to analyze that. I became aware of what
Yes.
was actually
And
happening.
that's good, because many people don't take the time to question and
Mhm.
analyze.
Right,
You see, when you question and analyze, you will understand how to fix the issue.
right.
So you now know, well, okay, I missed my mom at that moment.
Yes, yes.
Yes, and so what can you do? She's already gone. So, I miss her, then you close that file.
Yes,
And then you move on.
and you're able to move on. You're able to move on.
When you don't close that file, you
Mhm.
go around the whole day with an open file,
Yes.
confused, and you become a misery to everybody.
Yeah, all day long. Had I
boy.
carried that,
If
but
you carried
because
it.
I realized what was happening
Mhm.
there. So we want you to be aware of that, if self-aware of your emotions and managing, what we're talking about briefly is managing your emotions
Yes.
and having self-knowledge of what's going on with you when things are happening to you, and you don't just have to let it happen to you. Understand this, that children, emotions are actually hardwired into our brains as a baby,
Mhm.
when we're getting
From inside.
and yeah, from inside.
Mhm.
That is when our emotions are starting to be wired
Mhm.
into us. And so these are some things that we have to learn how to be aware of. We have to talk to
Yeah, to
ourselves
manage
to manage our emotions.
Mhm.
So just being able to identify and name your
And
emotions
Go ahead,
right
Shirley.
now, as they arise, is an important part of a new concept, or a relatively new concept, about mindfulness.
What I want to say to you, it just came to mind.
Mm-hmm.
These are the unmanaged emotions too that help to cause domestic violence.
Of course it
In the
does.
house.
Uh-huh.
Husband comes home, he's feeling this emotion, he is
Mhm.
not managing to close the
Mhm.
file
Mhm.
before stepping in the house, and then the wife has her unmanaged emotion as well, and then
Right.
you have a catastrophe.
Right, exactly.
And then these things cause abuse.
Right.
People doing things and saying words that they don't mean to say, because you're not managing and you're not
You're-
understanding how to become self-aware, manage your emotions, and close the
Right.
files that you don't need to keep open all day.
Exactly.
Whatever made you angry, close that file.
So we ask you to, in conclusion of our program, we ask you to look at the man in the mirror. If you can control your thoughts, you can control your attitude. If you can control your attitude, you can better control your actions. Your attitudes actually include excuses, justifications, and your perspectives on things as well.
And so, Shirley, we cannot and should not confuse our personality with your attitude.
Yeah,
Your personality is who you are.
yeah,
Your attitude, it's something that comes by some kind of stimuli.
right.
So whatever spark a certain attitude, something can spark a positive, happy attitude,
Uh-huh.
and something else can spark an attitude that makes you become defensive.
That's right.
So the personality, your attitude is not who you are.
Yeah.
So your attitude you can control.
You can control that and
Yeah,
change
so don't
that
mistake your personality with your attitude.
a
Yes.
lot better than that.
Yes.
Aloma sent me a video the other day. She likes to send me videos, and her video was about what was that about, the car that was driving through the water, and
Oh yes.
Hey.
I've sent you so many videos.
yes, I said that.
Yes,
She said
uh-huh. You know the slogan with that one.
exactly. Well, I didn't want to mention it, but there's a slogan out that is being a part of an advertisement now, and it says, "Don't drown, turn around."
Yes.
Well, I thought we would conclude our program with that. Look, whatever your thoughts are, whatever your attitudes and your emotions, you don't have to drown in them. You don't have to drown in your thoughts. You don't have to drown in your emotions. You can stop,
And turn
and
around.
you can be able to turn around.
Yes.
Because as we said many times before, the best control
It's
is
self-control.
self-control. So this program has been sponsored by Florida Educators Resource. You can go to our website at www.floridaeducatorsresource.com if you're interested in character education materials. We also want to remind you that we will have an upcoming radio show coming soon. I can't keep saying it's coming soon,
It's
but
coming.
it will. And where you'll be able to join in and talk with us. And we want to remind you to share and like
And subscribe.
and subscribe. We thank you for joining us today. You have a wonderful
Wonderful
day.
day.